What's up, everyone? This is Josh Porter, your host, with Mandy Livingston, and we are recording episode. What episode are we on? Like,
this is 44.
Come on, episode 44,
44. With
a returning guest, the one and only Adam Chauncey. What's up, big boy?
Hey, what's up, guys?
He's one of my favorites.
He is. He was one of the first.
Right back at you.
He was early.
Not even just favorite guests, but favorite people.
Yeah. He's definitely one you want to have back on the show and just hang out with and spend some time with. That's right.
Agreed. So, since the last time you've been on this podcast, some big things have happened for you.
Oh, yeah.
Or one little thing.
One little thing. Not so little now. She's about to hit, or she's at least 12 pounds now.
Is she really?
Oh, yeah.
She's catching up with Moosey.
She's eating good.
How old is she?
She'll be 3 months Friday.
Man.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, I know.
Now, here's the big question. Here's what everybody wants to know. Do you help at night?
Yeah,
Are you that guy?
So, I know, right? That's the thing. It's like my 90-year-old grandmother sees me hold this baby, and she's like, if my husband had ever held a baby, I can't. And I'm like, it's most men, at least like to think, do that nowadays. But normally, I trade off with Hannah in the evening. So she'll be doing most stuff during the day. She's still on maternity leave. And then when I get home, we'll try to go to the gym together because they have childcare, and then we'll get home and I'll make dinner and change diapers and stuff like that while Hannah gets at least a little bit of downtime. The baby's still in that phase where if she's fussy or something like that, like,
you mean nothing to her.
I mean absolutely nothing.
That's the phase you're in.
My pectorals do not produce anything worth having, thankfully. So she's all mama still, but normally after we eat, like, I can hold her, she'll hang out, she'll be pretty chill, and I can feed her and whatnot, and then time to go to bed, she has to have mom get her laid down and everything.
Sweet.
Yeah, I love that.
I know.
Man, it's so exciting.
That was great.
It is.
It's easy.
Love it.
You forget how sweet they are when you get out of that baby stage. You know.
Oh,
When
yeah.
that's in the toddler stage, and you're like, no, stop it. Don't touch that. Oh, my God, did you just eat that?
Well, your life doesn't really change a whole lot. You just throw them in a carrier and you just go wherever you want.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
When they start
It's
walking and rolling around and all that stuff, it's like, oh my gosh.
It's
like,
a person.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's
It
just,
is a
it's
person.
nuts.
I can imagine. She's already grabbing.
We went skiing last week, just as an example. So I've got a 4-year-old, and the first part of the day we put him in ski school, and so we.
Is that not the cutest?
It was actually really
Like
cute.
ski
That's gotta be
school
awesome.
for a
It's
4-year-old?
like cute to watch them walk over there and then they get handed off and they're like, all right, come back at 11:30 and pick them up,
Oh.
and so when you pick them up, they're like, what'd you learn? And the instructor's like, he learned how to do pizza. He's like, I'm not doing pizza. So that's how you slow down.
Yeah.
I'm like,
you
what
put
is
your skis like a
Pizza or French fry,
Yeah,
right?
pizza or French fry. So he wanted to be a French fry. And so anyway, but it just even watching, like, the morning we would have a little bit of time so we could go to some more complicated slopes. And then when we'd pick him up, it's like, and life's over, right?
Yeah.
And we're gonna get a harness and we're gonna go down this little green bunny slope and we're gonna call it a day.
This is McCoy's world, and we just live in it.
Yeah, it's cute. It's cute. But
Who was he
anyway.
dragging around in the video that was on Facebook?
I think that was me.
Was it you? He was dragging around?
Yeah, Laura and I both kind of alternated. It was so funny because he was great. I mean, really, because you can control, right? So you're the one slowing down or going fast anyway. So he's French frying it all the way down, just straight. But then he'd get bored. And so when he'd get bored, he would look around.
Yeah.
And
Oh, no.
as soon as you take your eyes off, when you're skiing, if you take your eyes off where you're going, he's just rolling down the hill, It was great. It was great. But no, we had a good time. But,
That's great.
You gotta roll with it.
I love it when they're this age. Well, my house is full of this age.
Yeah.
So I love it when they're snuggly and cuddly. And then when they're getting into stuff and getting on their parents' nerves, I love that one too.
Oh, yeah. Well, you can send them home.
That, and it's like the ultimate payback where you just sit back and you're like, mwah.
Yeah.
Just right. Just wait.
It's unfortunate because I feel the same way about you. I'm like, what does McCoy need to annoy his parents?
Yeah.
Like drums.
Oh, perfect.
He's
Yeah.
got plenty. Yeah. He's got plenty. His vocabulary, being the youngest of 5 with teenage boys.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes I'm like,
Boys.
What did you just say?
Yeah.
How did that 4-year-old know to say that? But,
And you're like,
yeah.
and you know where it came from.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
and you're like, I'm fixing to have to go down there and whoop some butt.
Yeah.
This is great where we're at right now because she thinks I'm funny. So she'll laugh. And it doesn't really matter what. And she might just laugh out of reaction anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So at least I think I'm funny right now. We'll see if that continues.
She's like, he's back.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah.
Comedy
That's
Central's
great.
back. So how have you been able, while we're on this baby track, because I'm really curious, how have you guys been able to stay in the holistic lane with all of the baby stuff? Like, I know, like, I think I've even called you and been like, listen, Kaysen's booty is on fire and, help. And so, stuff like that. So how, has it been easy? Has it been difficult?
It had. I would hesitate to say any of it's easy, right? Like even if you don't go the holistic route, it's still a pain in the rear end, literally, right? But for us, I mean, part of this is because I've lived it for so long, and a lot of it's because of, at no fault of my parents, because they didn't know any better, right? Like, as most of us 90s kids are unfortunately figuring out, like, a lot of the stuff we had when we were infants and whatnot is causing probably downstream issues now. Hence the autoimmune disease epidemic hitting like 30% of my age group. So what I've tried to do is just use basic understanding that I have garnered, which isn't anything fancy. Like, I never feel like I'm the smartest person in the room. It's really just, can I pronounce it? Does it look like it? Is it the same thing I used when I was little? If it was, then it's probably not the best option. So I can probably make a better decision. Yeah. Have they been sued for cancer or whatever else?
Yeah.
So like Johnson's out. A lot of that kind of stuff. Or do they make pharmaceutical drugs? Okay, like Unilever and some of these other brands are out. So what does that leave? Not so much, right? Like it kind of narrows it down for you, and you've got a lot of the some of the more Hollywood types have made this a little bit more popular, like
The Honest brand.
Jessica Alba has helped a lot, and her products actually are pretty good. We don't carry them at Nutrition World mainly because the price markup would be too high because they're so mass market, but
they're expensive.
They're still expensive anyway, right? Like they're good. Like it's good stuff. That's the diaper rash cream we use. We've got it at the store. We've got a newer one at the store that I've tried too, which works really good. We don't have it yet in a big enough container because we go through it pretty quick. From a company called Badger, and
I saw that.
Yeah, they're really good. I've recommended that one to a few of my friends, and they have really sensitive skin for their babies. And little stuff like that. Like when we did our registry, I specifically requested only 2 different types of wipes, only 2 different types of diapers. And we got 90% that. Like, that's the thing. Like, we kind of had a little bit of a discussion when me and Hannah were making the request, like on the registry, and she was like, well, are people going to actually get these things? And I said, well, if they don't, it'll be gift cards, right? Like, so if that's any of the best information probably for expecting parents or trying to plan this out is, what's the worst that's going to happen if you get too picky?
Yeah.
People are going to get you gift cards, right?
Yeah.
And then you can get it yourself. And that's actually what we did with this baby, and it worked out phenomenally. So we got the best quality wipes, we got the best quality diapers. And is there a trade-off? Like, the way I see it, like Pampers, maybe the poop's going to go up the back. You know what I mean?
Right.
If the diapers aren't strong enough, the Honest brand or whatever other brand we're using, maybe the poop comes out and goes down the leg. Like, there's going to be poop. You know what I mean? Like, there will be poop.
Oh, there's going to be poop.
I don't really worry about that nearly as much as I do what actually is going on in the baby's body.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you think about it, a baby is so much topical. They touch everything.
Right.
They put everything in their mouth. Like, skin is a big issue for us, and it's our biggest organ, right? No matter what stage of life we're in, but really for kids. And that barrier is super important. So for us, it was really just whatever's touching the baby's skin's got to be clean. And that was step number 1. Step number 2 was our decisions with the vaccines and everything like that, which I'm totally fine talking about. If anyone ever has questions about that, we did not vaccinate. And we went with just the basic of the basic for birth. We didn't even do the erythromycin eye cream. And she's doing fantastic. By the grace of God, she's great. And, that was primarily due to, you could go through the research and all that stuff, and you can find pros and cons on both. But I have such high skin sensitivities and such reactivity. And I used to always get sick after I would get any of the ordered vaccines by the school system, right? So I knew that it probably wasn't the best for my baby. Hannah was fine. Hannah never had any reactions like that, but we just didn't want to chance it, right? And so that was order number 2, to consider that medical approach. And really, that was the most complicated thing. The rest of the stuff is pretty much the same. You look at food, like she's breastfed, so we pay attention to what Hannah eats, but that wasn't really that big of a change because I cook most of our meals anyway. And that's not because Hannah can't cook. I got to specify that so I don't get slapped.
Attaboy.
But
He's been married for a hot minute.
That's right. I've learned. But it's more because since she's at home watching the baby and whatnot, so when I get home, I can cook, and I'm picky as all get out, so it's got to be something I'll eat, right? And she eats the same thing, and she's done really well with all of that, right? So we try to minimize lactose because Hannah is lactose intolerant, so we don't know if Lily is or not, but we're not going to chance it. So we just kind of minimize that, and that's pretty much it. If we do formula, we do Kinder Mills goat milk formula.
And you guys have that at the store too, don't you?
We don't, so we can't get Kinder Mill. We have a goat milk formula from Germany, which is probably the best you can get. The downside is we couldn't take that to the hospital because it's not technically allowed in the hospital setting because all that's a big thing.
Oh, I didn't know that.
My argument is always like, it's your baby and they're not always in the room. Do what you want to.
Right.
You know? And that's the approach we would have had. But Kinder Mill just recently got, and we tried to bring Kinder Mill in. It's just going to be too expensive for our customers because they're mass market. And we're not going to mark it up to meet our demand for it. So we just don't want to do that to people. But they just got approval back in April to sell goat milk formula here. A couple of years ago, they got approval to kind of break the mold in the U.S. and allow a grass-finished cow milk formula, A2 cow milk. And that kind of opened the door to some other brands outside of Enfamil and Similac, which are, garbage. I mean, they are garbage. Like
you
now,
tried not to say it.
Share real quick A2 milk.
Yeah, so
Just
it's
so
the allele delineation in the genetic makeup of the cow, and it's essentially allergen load. It's for the casein, and the casein is the 80% of the milk protein that you're going to get from a animal or from a cow, and A2 is just a different type of Jersey cow delineation, typically less of an allergen. Goat is even a step better. It's actually further down the alphabet. Now, I don't get into how much down the alphabet matters, but they're like an E allele, and they have much less inflammatory load as well.
Is it true that goat milk is more like human milk than cow's milk is?
Yes, it's the closest.
Okay.
Which is why we sell the one from Germany, but...
them German goats, apparently.
Yeah, well, it's just, you don't have to worry about anything. Like, you don't even have to worry really about an organic delineation because they don't allow glyphosate spray over there, Roundup. Kinder Mill, you do want to get the organic, right? But and it is approved, and I have to be very specific on this. You can use that in the recovery room. I had a come to Jesus meeting with the doctor on call that the night that she was born about this, and it wasn't a heated argument, but it was enough for me to tell Hannah that we were going to give it to her regardless, because I'm not going to give her Enfamil Similac. And I will say this about...
Which the hospital provides.
Which they provide. But they also provide, and here's where the avocation part comes in, they do provide grass-fed options, and they do provide A2 options there.
Really? I didn't know
which
that.
is newer. I don't even think they did that with our first baby, Gracie. I don't think they had that then. This is only a 2 years difference. So those are options, but if you want to use goat, there is one approved in the U.S., and it is Kinder Mill. And it's on temporary approval. It's on temporary approval pending further FDA certification, but it is approved. Like, it can be used. And the doctor actually called back and apologized for giving us a hard time about it because it was approved. So that's nice to know. And it all comes down to just being prepared. Like, you don't have to do hours of research. It's just a few, ChatGPT and stuff like that nowadays, a lot of my recommendations go to that to get decent information. You got to kind of know what you're putting in it.
Right.
But, as long as you can follow some hyperlinks to studies from that, you'll be okay. And those are the two really, or three most challenging things. Just making sure you get the right products to put on the baby, making sure that you know what you're going to do when the baby's born, like with the vaccine schedule and everything, and figuring out what you're going to do food wise. And now Hannah breastfeeds, so
Yeah.
that does really well. But if we have to have it, we have that Kinder Mill goat formula at the house, and that's really been it. So it hasn't been that huge of an adjustment. It's just been consistency with it.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do formula, make sure you're getting filtered water that filters out fluoride.
Right.
I love how you said being prepared is the battle. I mean, because I'm thinking most people are just like in any form of healthcare, it's reactive, right? So you guys had these thoughts about, we're going to use erythromycin salve on the eyes before they swab her eyes with erythromycin. You're like, can you wipe that off?
Yeah.
So walk somebody through that situation. Like, how did you guys prepare as a couple, and what were those conversations like on the front end? I mean, it sounds like with the on-call, OB that there was a little bit of a rift, but I'm assuming you had the conversation about, hey, we don't want this, and this done. At what junction? Like if somebody's listening to this and was like, man, how do you even go about that? Like how did you guys navigate that?
So first off, it's knowledge, right? Like, so I've read multiple books on vaccine safety and data. I've also read the boring books, which is just the data, which Robert F. Kennedy has a really good one out with him and another professor that is a specialist in statistics. Because what is that quote by Mark Twain? There's I can't think of it, but it's
this is what it's like being a new dad.
three different types of here it is. This is important.
Got it.
There are three different types of lies, damn lies, and statistics. And that's because you can make statistics say almost anything, right?
That's right.
And this book specifically, and I'll figure out the name of it. I think it's called Vax Unvax is the name of it, and you can kind of choose from that. But it's deep, but it's useful because you can really get the raw data and you can interpret it.
Yeah.
So that was the thing for me, plus my history with this stuff and just having a lot of antibiotic exposure when I was little, and the vaccine schedule almost doubling from when I was little to what it is now. Like, it's just a lot. And we're wiser now, and you have a lot more people that ask questions now. So it's just kind of more in the mainstream to a degree.
Sure.
But the other side of that is I didn't make the decision. I've told Hannah that she had to read, and I didn't really tell her she had to read. Let me rephrase that. She wanted to know. And I said, well, if you want to know, I don't want to tell you. I want you to read at least a couple books.
And then have a discussion.
And she did. She read a couple of different books. She followed some people on social media, which has its pros and cons, but she can bounce that off of me. So that's a benefit she may have over some other people. But we went through that, and I said, okay, so what are you comfortable with? And she said, well, I think I'd be okay with just doing like the polio vaccine. And I said, okay, well, do you want to have a discussion about that? Because I can make the argument against it. And she said, okay. And we had the argument against that, which is the only polio that shows up now is polio vaccine-induced polio. And that's 100% verifiable out of New York from a couple of years ago, as a matter of fact, and other countries in Africa. And so after we had that discussion, showed her some data on that, she said, okay, well, I'm good without any of it. And probably the only thing that was hard to overcome objection with was the erythromycin actually at the office. And that's only an issue if you have gonorrhea. You know what I mean?
If
the mom has gonorrhea.
Yeah.
And, she doesn't.
Right.
But also they get tested for that at the last checkup.
Right.
And then I believe right before the baby is born, they get swabbed again to double check. So it's like, I'll take the chances that, something didn't happen on the way to the OR. Right. And because antibiotics are we have even more data on the danger of antibiotics to a new immune system than we do vaccines. So that was one I was not going to budge on. And then the last one was the vitamin K shot. And I was kind of, I could take or leave that one. They do have a preservative-free vitamin K shot now that you can request. I know Galen keeps it in stock at their pharmacy, so you can request that. And, we forewent it. We went with the Dutch protocol, which is oral vitamin K1, natural vitamin K1, once every other day for the dosage we had for multiple weeks, and then reducing it after that, or even quicker if the baby's on formula. which has a almost identical efficacy profile as the K shot with lower side effects. So we went with that. But then I also had one of my best friends whose wife, they went through IVF, and she was on progesterone shots and blood thinners for the duration of the pregnancy. And I told her, you absolutely cannot miss it. You have to get the vitamin K shot. I would not take that risk. Sure enough, they had to use suction when their baby was born. And, she was thankfully not hesitant at all to do that, because in her case, I think it was very prudent to do it. And she did the preservative free, and their baby's super healthy and doing great at 5 weeks old now.
How would a parent, okay, I'm thinking back to when I had my kids, and I had an idea of what I thought having a baby was going to be like literally giving birth, what that was going to be like. I don't know that would I be the average one? Because I would say Adam and Hannah are above average, but in terms of what their knowledge is. But I was like, I don't know. Y'all are going to have to tell me what to do. I don't know.
Well, I think that's most of society is the I don't know. I trust the system through which I'm delivering this baby, right?
Exactly.
For good reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, they, babies survive.
Yeah.
Typically. But I think Adam mentioned it earlier. We have more information now at our fingertips than ever before. And no longer do we, walk into an office room and whatever that person in a white coat says, do we take it as the gospel? Everything is questionable.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so I think we've got 5 kids, and I'm in the healthcare industry, and those questions just weren't things you were really asking 20 years ago when we had our first baby. I mean, it was just like, are they alive? You know?
And I've got to keep them that way. Roger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've come a long way.
Yeah.
But I think you also have statistics, right?
Yeah.
You see rates of autism, as an example, accelerate, over the past, 20 years, that you're starting to see things where it's like alarms are going off that are causing families now who are having kids to be like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Something's awry here.
Yeah. There's definitely ways to detect and figure out that, is it chance? Like, sure. But it's kind of like this, like most of your average folks, this is no knock on your average folk, but most average folks attribute the longevity in childbirth, like the rate of children having pretty much extremely rare cases of death, to vaccines. It's not the case. The number one thing that promoted life expectancy, both in children and just throughout healthy life, was hand washing.
Stop it.
Number one. But beyond everything else. And that's still in its infancy. I mean, that's barely a century ago that became standard care, was
Washing
to wash
your hands?
Yes. And that alone drastically altered the human biology for the next, 100 years. Then you put in, to some degree, antibiotics, though that can be argued, for sure. That can be argued. But you look back and you think about Franklin Roosevelt is probably one of the key reasons why we push so hard for vaccines in the medical industry. And it's not even, there's actually a better chance that he had a totally different disease than polio. It rarely afflicts people that age. But because we are so quick to utilize medical intervention, because it is such a godsend, that we often throw the baby out with the bathwater and over-diagnose and over-treat. And that's why you have so many antibiotic-resistant issues nowadays, bacteria. You have such a high influx of different kind of cold and flu. Like the cold and flu seasons get worse and worse, it seems. As bad as COVID was, the flu season in 2017, 2018 still had almost an identical death rate, and way higher on children, because COVID virtually didn't kill any kids except for one in the U.S. that had a comorbidity. And like, we have very short-term memories with that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was only just so long ago the doctors weren't even washing their hands in between patients, right? And could not be told that it was because they weren't washing their hands that why patients were getting sick.
That grosses me out.
I mean, there's like
there's a lot of stuff that has changed just in the last 100 to 130 years that has impacted mortality so much that a vaccine here and there. Every vaccine introduced over the last 100 years, actually including the smallpox vaccine back in the 1700s, still was entered in at the down regulation or the down slope of the disease epidemic. And there's not an exception. So you could make the argument either way, but if you follow the data pretty good, and like it's pretty inarguable that it's okay to not do it. Mm-hmm. But I can understand why people might want to do it out of safety and or just out of just trust. Like they just want concern.
Yeah.
Like they want to do what they think is best, and that's okay. Like you're not a bad person for vaccinating your family.
What if you decided like they've gotten so many, can they stop?
Sure.
Or like once you're in, you're in?
No, you can stop.
Do you know what I mean? Like, because
the problem
there's
is like
levels of certain ones, right?
Well, like with MMR,
it's been a minute.
Yeah. So measles, mumps, and rubella, like they used to think it was 1 and you're done.
Yeah.
And now I think it's like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
3.
Yeah, I think so.
And even they lose efficacy quickly. And it's like, okay, well then, is there really a point? Because these had such a low impact in modern times anyway. You could make the argument that it's not worth it. Chickenpox is another one. Like
that came out when you guys were and I say you guys because you're the same age as some of my children.
Yeah.
So like when you guys were probably, I don't know, like 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there, maybe smaller than that. That vaccine for chickenpox came out and it was like they've not had it.
Otherwise, it's chickenpox party.
Yeah. And I'm like, just get the cooties.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not
cooties,
that bad. I mean, get the cooties.
It's not. There's so many good. There's a really good book, and it's called Dissolving Illusions. And it doesn't drastically attack the vaccine industry, but what it does is it opens up a history of the medical system and how medicine evolved from the 1800s into modern time. Vaccines are obviously along the way there, but it goes through how the evolution of treatment came about and how that it truly isn't just the antibiotics and the vaccines and the drugs that made all the difference. It really was as simple as cleaner hospitals, sanitation. I mean, just 100 years ago, they were throwing poop out the window in New York.
Stop it.
Like, and it would be deep, like ankle deep. It's not a joke.
Out of a hospital or just random?
It's not a joke, man. It's not a joke.
Stop.
I'm serious. Like it really is a thing.
So disgusting.
And just changing that can make all the difference in the world. But then you have true things that aren't just about sanitation, like carcinogens and stuff like that. That stuff's been around forever too. It's like chimney sweeps and testicular cancer, scrotal cancer. That
People
was
who
in
sweep chimneys get testicular cancer. Is that what you're telling me?
because the kids would typically do it naked because it was so hot, covered in soot. And so a lot of that stuff is true, like how to detect this stuff with carcinogens and stuff like that. But it all kind of comes back to sanitation and safety more than it almost does anything else. Our bodies are very amazing and very resilient. It's just how willing are we to heal something versus cut something out, like your appendix, for instance. 80% of appendicitis can be cured by antibiotics. But now, how many people do you know have just had...
go get it cut out.
And this is data that's been well known for almost 30 years.
Well, it's fear, right? I mean, fear...
It's
fear and
dogma.
dogma.
And dogma. Yeah, that's true. I mean, you can talk about a lumpectomy, a partial lumpectomy versus a double mastectomy with women and breast cancer. There's really no difference.
Right.
But the percentages of mastectomies that are done compared to lumpectomies, astounding.
Astoundingly high. Yeah.
Because women are like, well, the idea, because as soon as your provider says, well, we can take it out, it's the small little lump, but there's still a chance.
Yeah.
Well, what's a woman going to do?
Yeah,
right?
get rid of
Sure.
it.
Take it all.
Take it all. Take both of them. Give me fake ones.
Yeah, so I think it's all in the how things are perceived, how things are given to the patient to understand. Adam, talk to us about. I mean, here we are, 2025. We got Make America Healthy Again agenda.
Yeah.
Confirmation of RFK just came through, right? Everybody except for Mitch McConnell, who's he's got his own personal story, right? I mean, you can't. Sure. I think that's the whole polio vaccine, and but he's the only detractor, I think, from the Republican Party that didn't vote for him. But What where do you see where are you optimistic in where that goes specifically with vaccines, and then a general broader picture for overall just kind of health?
Sure. So I don't trust the government to do anything. I don't care who's in office in most cases. I definitely think our chances are better now, but there's so much red tape with all of that, right? I am much more optimistic for my kids.
Yeah.
For sure. Because everything is trending in that direction. You know, to put in perspective, I don't think Trump wins the election probably without RFK. I really don't.
Yeah.
Because I think that swung
The younger voter.
I think upper middle class women
Really?
who have kids who are tired of their kids being sick, because I see it every day at work. Moms coming in that have the money to do something about it and have no idea, and their doctors suck because they have no idea what to do for them. It's a Z-Pack and something over the and Tylenol, and it's like, okay, there's got to be something
allergy
else.
shots
Or allergy shots,
Or you get told it's a virus, and out the door you go with nothing.
and that's it, right? Like there are other ways to do this, and I think if nothing else, this opens the door for alternative methods.
Yeah.
Whether you buy it at Nutritional World or not, it matters not to us. It's not why we do this. Like, you can get Sambucus elderberry extract at Walmart, and by God, if your kid is sick, try that if you're afraid to try something else.
Right.
But Tamiflu is a neurotoxin, you know? Like, and you've got to be careful with that. And in the data we have from the early 2000s, it is no more effective. It's actually less effective than that. Now, obviously, this isn't medical advice, and I'm not telling anybody to go and do or not do anything. You've got to make your own decisions. You should have a practitioner you trust. The other beautiful part about living in this great country is you can shop for doctors. You don't have to just go to one. You can shop for one. If you don't like them, go to a different one. You know, it is that simple. There are plenty of them out there, and there are a bunch of good ones.
Yeah.
But you have to be informed enough to advocate. And I think that's one thing that's going to really change with the new administration, especially with RFK, is you're going to have a larger advocation arm to where people are comfortable having the conversation. And yeah, you know, healthcare is what, $9 trillion a year of our debt. Like, it's not going to be done overnight, corrected overnight, but that would save so much money. Is just having people ask questions before they get a drug that's going to just screw something else up. You know, diabetes is the top growing epidemic in the U.S., with over 60% of adults being either diabetic or pre-diabetic, and 30% of children, or obese with children, but diabetic or pre-diabetic with adults. And, you know, what's the number one drug that's prescribed currently, Josh?
For what?
For anything. Just number one overall drug.
Well, usually you've got statins.
Statins. What's the number one side effect of statins?
Well, there's muscle pain, obesity, diabetes. Yeah.
Blood sugar dysbiosis, blood sugar issues, right? And muscle pain, obviously, too, right? But issues with blood sugar are the number one. Like, so we've got the number one, you know, treatment for lipids that really virtually do absolutely nothing. Going back to the statistics being a lie, you know, you make a 2% relative risk reduction turn to a 40% just by manipulating the data. To now, like, wondering why everybody that hits 60 or so, you know, has diabetes and has to go on metformin, which has its own side effects. So then they're taking Metamucil or something else to keep themselves from, you know, crap in their pants. Like, it's bad stuff. And it just cascades. And that's why we talk about the pharma treadmill. When you hit about 55, 60 years old, the average amount of drugs you're on is about 5. And it just goes up from there. You know, so I think that's going to change. I think you're going to get more knowledge. I think you're going to get wiser care. I think you're going to get wiser not drug companies, but wiser healthcare companies, because I think their funding's about to get slapped to some degree pretty hard. And I mean, you noticed it just when RFK's confirmation went through. It was actually the day before his confirmation went through when everyone found that he had the Senate votes to make it. Pfizer, Moderna, and a couple other stocks dropped like drastically.
Somebody said, "I'm gonna take that money back."
Well,
now.
it's sell, you know, and it makes sense. Like, they make some good drugs too, but you know, there's going to be a reckoning. There has to be a reckoning. It's kind of like with the national debt and these tariffs and whatnot, and the audits are the kind of last chance we have before we just have to default.
Right.
And which isn't the worst thing that could happen either, but at some point you have to sleep in the bed you've made. And, you know, I'm
That's
sure
a life lesson.
it is. And I'm sure Trump doesn't want to be the president that has to do it, but he's also the one that doesn't have anything to lose, you know, and, you know, he'll get blamed for it or whatever, but it's been a long time coming. And if we can somewhat improve healthcare, then it's a lot better likelihood that we can forego something that drastic. So I'm hopeful, but there's obviously no guarantees.
Yeah.
What do you see, boss?
No, I would say very similar. I mean, I think the idea that I think people are fed up, so which is encouraging, and I think you're gonna see it become more grassroots, where people are going to go, you know, become more independent, more self-sufficient, which will remove it from the red tape, if you will, because it's going to cause people to shop at places like Nutrition World.
Sure.
And so places that offer that, you know, beacon of hope are going to thrive.
Yeah.
Places that don't, it'll be a slow strangulation of where, you know, you're going to get this constant pushback from big pharma, from, you know, the political side on the other side of the aisle, who, regardless of which side you're on, it's just, that's the way it always works. Yeah. Right. So you're the funding, the lobbyists, all that stuff's going to always be pushing against whatever the agenda. But I don't know that I think big picture, yes, but I think on the individual level, I think we'll probably see it happen even sooner from that standpoint. It just won't be as massive a movement.
Yeah.
As like, to your point about like my kids will probably, I think so. But you know what scares me about that is when we get lazy, then we'll just fall back into it.
Well, what is it? Good times make weak men, or good times make, what is it? Strong men create good times create weak men create, you know, whatever. And it kind of goes in that cycle. It's got a name and I can't think of it. The philosophical
That's
side
so
of me
true,
is
though.
running late today, but yeah, it's just, you know, we have to go through these hard bouts to kind of learn from our mistakes. It's like a lot of people hate politics nowadays because Trump is so polarizing and whatnot, but it's a pendulum swing. Like, you can, like, you push so far for so long, and you're seeing this now with like all this stuff, all this scandalous theft of money. Like with USAID and some of these other organizations, where it's like you can't even pretend, as much as some of the media outlets want to try to pretend, that it's not what it is. But come on, like, it's bad. And so it makes sense is why the pendulum swings so far, and health is no different. You're only going to, you know, screw people over for so long. I mean, look at what's his name? He just passed away here recently. He's like 100 years old, had like 4 heart transplants, or multiple heart transplants. Rockefeller, the junior, just died. He was like 101 years old. And, you know, his dad is the one that put forth the pharma initiative in the 20s and 30s that started a lot of this. Oil money is exactly what it was. He's the one who put forth the legislation to get homeopathy banned and other approaches, holistic approaches. It's not that long ago, but it's obviously not helped, right? And now we're, you know, we live longer, but who do you know that's spry at 80?
Right.
You know, it's very few. Like my grandmother is on 0 prescription medications. She's 90 years old and she drives where she wants and does what she wants and everything else. Had a knee replacement at 83. But, you know, if they're on 3 or 4 medications, chances are like they're, you know, they're there, but what can they truly do? Right.
Yeah.
And once again, it's not dogging these meds. Like, nobody wants Peepaw to kill over, right? Like, that's not what we're saying. But at the same time, it's like some people just are they capable of actually sustaining life without having 10 different prescription medications? And in a lot of cases, it's forcing this idea that, oh, when I get older, and I've had people my age tell me this, oh, I'll be on blood pressure medication, whatever, it's fine, I'll worry about it then. It's like, you say that, but then you get lazy because the meds are doing it for you to a degree, and you're not working out, you're not eating right, you're not considering hormone replacement, which I had to uneducate somebody about today. As a matter of fact, that was just convinced he did not ever want to go on HRT. And I was like, brother, let me tell you something.
Right.
Like, a little bit of testosterone go a long way. Ask me how I know, right? Like, because some people just ain't got it. And, you know, when you ain't got it, you ought to go get it. And that is the same way with fitness. Okay.
That's
Like,
our new slogan.
Yeah.
if you ain't got it, you got to go get it. And hey, like, it can make all the difference for, you know, a 70-year-old person to start working out.
Yeah.
Like, they may go off most of their meds and live to be 90, like my grandmother, and be able to self-sustain rather than be 90, if they're lucky to make it that far, on 8 different meds and, you know, hobble to the bathroom if they can make it that far.
It's hard to have those conversations.
Oh, it is.
With that age group. My parents are in that age group. I love them. They're listening to this podcast. I love you guys. However, you drive me nuts. They drive me crazy. Because they'll be like, hey, will you ask your peeps? That's what they call y'all, just so you know.
Oh, yeah.
You're my peeps. Will you ask your peeps about this? Will you ask your peeps about that? I'm like, Did you eat sugar today?
Yeah.
You eating them Cheetos? You still eating them Cheetos?
Right.
And they're like, matey. And I'm like, I'll ask them when you put the Cheetos down.
This is a great analogy I like to use. You know, it worked for Jesus, so I try to speak in parables because people, it's lasted 2,000 years. So
All right, come on. Let's see.
I figure that's the best way to get things. Hey, it gets it across pretty well if it's lasted that long, right? But it's the low hanging fruit thought, right? Like, how good is that apple at the top of the tree compared to the apple at the bottom? Eat the apples off the bottom branch before you risk breaking your neck to get to the top. You don't have to do that much. You know, like, a little bit of fitness goes a long way.
Right.
A little bit of movement goes a long way. A little bit of, you know, like I was telling that guy earlier, a little bit of TRT can go a long way, you know, to making a lot of things better. And maybe you don't end up needing all the prescription drugs, and maybe you don't have to, you know, do, you know, Metamucil and everything else and take a Tylenol every day just to get out of bed. Like, a little bit of sweat equity can make a big difference. And, you know, I start most of my consultations off with the importance of fitness. Now, I'm a nutritionist by trade, but you truly can outwork a bad diet. Just nobody wants to work that hard. So what I can tell people is, you might not want to see that little bit of love handle that hangs over that bikini that fit you 20 years ago, but it's not going to make or break your lifespan. What I'm worried about is you being able to move at all, or pick up a grandkid or whatever. You're still going to live just as long as if you didn't have that love handle. I can tell you that. But you need to work out. You need to lift some weights. You need to get a little bit more fit. And you need to drink, you know, non-fluoridated water and put some minerals in it. You need to monitor your hormones. You know, some of this basic stuff that you can really just lock in on a couple times a year to monitor. And then you manage with 2 or 3 days a week of specific activity. That's it.
Now, you've mentioned fluorinated water twice in 2 different arenas. How does one know how much fluoride is in their water
You
if
can get it
you're
tested.
just everywhere? Isn't there like a website for your, mine's Hickson Utility.
Yeah.
So
Hickson only has 2 additives as of like 2020,
which is a good thing.
which is fluoride and one other thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, is that
It's good. It's the cleanest water in the area. It's the cleanest water in Hamilton County.
Holla, and it still
Hickson
gets
is?
filtered.
Hickson, yeah.
So you
I had a buddy that used to
you're
work
over there
there.
living in that nasty water.
I got filters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whole house filter, you know.
Yeah.
I know, right? But how? So they can you can test your own water, and you can you can call your water company for their
Yes.
information.
Yeah, you can call the water company. You can test it downtown. I think it's free, actually. Or
I think it
it's-
is,
yeah, you can take it downtown, have it tested. I can't think of the name of the place, but you can do
Probably
that.
Google it.
Yeah, you can Google it. You can, lobby your congressman or your senator is what I would really do, because this area is, we're in a red state, and it's been a radical flip of political alignment for now. So now that most of your Republicans are voting more for less pharma influence and stuff like that. So now's the time, if you're ever going to, go after your senator for somebody, it's not a bad idea to do that. Go after your local representatives, because, I always tell people this, like I love politics to the degree that I think you have to be able to understand things. And I tell everybody they have no right to complain if they don't vote in local elections and understand who they're voting for, because it affects you a lot more locally than it does nationally.
Yeah.
So you want to know that, and you want to see their stance on that, and you want to aggravate them. Agitation is the way you fix everything. And then you know, outside of that, you filter the water in your house, and that doesn't have to be that expensive either. We have a gravity filter by a company called Pro One. We still have some of those left at the store, but
does that go? Is that like one of the ones where you fill it up, put it in the fridge, or is it one of the ones where
no,
you
it sits
hook
on
it
your
to
counter?
Okay.
It sits on your counter, and you just pour it in the top, and it filters through and drains to the bottom.
Okay.
And I love that. It's fantastic water. We can't drink normal water now because you can taste the difference. Everybody that comes to our house is like, "Oh my God, that's such good water."
My sister does that. She comes in, she goes, and she will bring stuff with her. They live in Indiana. She will bring stuff with her and fill up.
Which is terrible water.
I know.
Yeah, Midwest water.
It's
awful.
gross. Yeah. Anyway, she brings it and fills it up, and she goes, "You got that good water." That's what she said. You got that good water.
She's taking it home.
She's taking it
It's a
home.
utility.
That's right.
It cracks me
Yeah,
up.
it's good
Tell her
stuff.
tell her to leave
And
your
it's
water
filtered.
alone.
I know, right? She's like, it just keeps coming out. Why can't I just go ahead and fill it up?
Well, and that's changing too. I mean, Lee County, Florida is the first county in the U.S. that actually just outlawed fluoride additive.
Which was,
in their
I
water.
think that's what you're going to see.
Yeah, it's Fort
Across the-
Myers
yeah.
for people that don't know the area, but Fort Myers down there further south. But it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, it's just people are figuring it out. We've known it's a neurotoxin forever. It's like Red 40. It's like, oh, it's fine. It's like
Other things
Is
to
it?
worry about.
Yeah, it's like, is it? You know, it's like you don't really have to worry about it if you don't. That's the other thing too. People are like, well, "What do you eat?" I see that all the time on Instagram comments. Like, I guess I'll just eat ice or whatever. It's like unfluoridated ice.
Yeah.
But you know, if you don't eat stuff out of a box or bag, you're going to be fine. That's always one of my first things that I tell my clients. It's like, if it's in a box or a bag, just avoid it, man. Like, you can make your life so much easier
Yeah.
by just avoiding that. And yeah, there's fruits you should probably avoid, and yeah, there's meat you should probably watch out for, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, but for the love of God, just don't eat it out of a box or a bag, and you'll be doing a lot better.
So good.
Carton it is. No, I'm just kidding.
Or carton,
playing,
or
I'm
a
just
Starbucks cup
Yeah.
that's lined with plastic that breaks down at high temperatures.
Listen, somebody's going to get me out like my two.
We'll call that a mic drop right there.
Right.
Adam Chauncey, like, seriously, just bringing some truth today, man.
I'm down.
Thank you. Yeah.
down.
Hope I don't get y'all blocked for
Oh, not for the next 4 years, baby.
That's right. That's right. We're free.
Yeah. Listen, man, thank you. Seriously, that was an awesome episode. You dropped a lot of knowledge for our listeners.
I got some weird Trivial Pursuit knowledge. Like, I didn't know chimney sweeps were naked.
Oh yeah.
Gosh.
I'm
Yeah.
using it.
That's the one thing she walks
That's
away
right.
from here is that chimney sweeps are naked.
You don't have a chimney at home, do you? Do I have to worry about Rob?
I do
Yeah.
have one.
Yeah, that's what
like,
she was
boy.
texting a minute ago. Yeah.
I'm like, boy, get
Yeah.
on in that chimney.
Oh my gosh.
We don't have baby sleeping in the bed.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that's true. You'll be good.
Yeah. You're gonna be all right. Well, listen. Thank you guys for listening to us today. You can check us out on our website, optimizehealthnow.com. You can find us on social media, Optimize Health, Facebook, Optimize Health Chattanooga. And we will see you guys next time.